Okay, I call to order this this special meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission. It's Thursday, September the 20th, 2022, 5:30 p.m. And excuse me, it's not September the 20th, it's October the 20th at 5:31 p.m. And this meeting is being conducted in the Carrabelle City Hall chambers, and we'll open with a prayer by Commissioner Allen, and then I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Our God and Father, we're so grateful that we have the opportunity to come together tonight as citizens that are concerned with the beauty of our city and that things might go well for us. Ask it to be with us in our judgment, that we might be righteous in your sight and do the best thing we can for our community. We ask this in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I see someone just signing in, and thank you all for coming, and I appreciate it if you would silence your phones now. We have 2 items on this evening's agenda. Anyone wishing to speak regarding either or both items must complete a speaker card for either or both items. If you wish to speak, you must complete a speaker card. Did you understand, Ms. Kim?
I did.
Okay. And you'll have under each item during the discussion a one-time visit to the podium with 3 minutes. If there's any outbursts from your seats, this is your warning now. You will be removed by the chief of police who is in the room. So we're going to move on now to item 1, discussion and possible action regarding commercial building awnings constructed 4 feet 6 inches from the main building with structural support beams anchored to the approximate center of sidewalk. This is requested by Mr. Alan Russell for the property at 210 Marine Street. And Mr. Russell, would you come forward and please tell us what your intentions are?
Hey, I'm Alan Russell with the White Kitchen. What we're looking to do is just put an awning on the front and use that for support. It will take up, I think we'll have about 5 feet under the awning and about 5 feet in the front. And on the side, we'll have 5 feet under awning and about 8 feet that's not under the awning. And just using it, just a better way of construction.
So will you be able to have an area with an unobstructed pathway?
Yes, ma'am. On the front, between the post and the planter, you'll have it at least 5 feet or a little bit over, and on the side, you'll have about 8 feet.
Do you have any architectural design for this, or you're just...
Basically, we had this from the last meeting, or about a month ago or better. And
okay. Does anyone here on the commission have questions for Mr. Russell regarding this project?
Will we still be able to keep Santa Claus down there?
yes, he won't get wet. We won't have to put up tents anymore.
Well, when we have him there, you know, the line forms outside, and there's a little extra surface to take care of that.
Have you reached out to the historical preservation group, how they feel about this? Because it will alter the look of the building, and we have a group that's in Carrabelle that's...
That would be Tamron?
I beg your pardon?
Tamron, are you talking about, or are you talking about the historical group?
There's a group that's a stickler about the historical preservation, and we wonder if they would have a comment on this.
All right. I'm more than willing to listen to anything they have to say.
Okay. Because we know if we allow this, then others will demand the opportunity to do the same. I would expect that.
Well, that one's in a weird position that since I don't have parking on either side of the building and my sidewalks are almost 2 times or 3 times larger than anybody else's, because I have literally 10 feet of sidewalk on the front and 13 on the side, where anybody else would have only 4 or 5 feet at the most of just sidewalks. They have parking in the front.
Do we have any comments from the commission?
I have a question about that, Al.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't the sidewalk on both sides of your building in uniformity to the rest of the sidewalks surrounding that area?
No, sir, I have planters in the front, like palm trees.
Well, there's planters out there.
Yeah, and they're on the far side, but I have them literally in the front of the building 10 feet. Everybody else probably has like 4 or 4.5 feet of sidewalk, because you actually go by the planter, you turn inward past my building. At my property, I don't have really any parking in front.
Yeah,
Or
I
on the
understand
side.
that because of the planter there.
Well, the planter's actually pushed out farther, and the sidewalk, I guess, was the, or that'll show you a little thing. It's like 6 feet to that. From the building to the light pole is about 6 feet, and then you have sidewalk even in front of that. That make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask Mr. Hartman about a sidewalk encroachment agreement, because this is proposed to be anchored to public city property. And I want to know, what kind of a comprehensive sidewalk encroachment agreement would we have to have for liability, personal injury, property damage, responsible for routine maintenance, cleanup, if there's a storm, who's going to be responsible? How's this going to be assessed as far as property values? Is it going to be, assessed as part of the building, or now that it's sitting on public property, will it be, how's all of this going to work?
All right, two of the issues, I don't think it would affect anything as far as adding property that would be on the tax rolls or anything like that. It would be an enhancement to the structure, so for valuation purposes, but that would be up to the county property appraiser. The issue legally, the primary issue would be that we would probably want an encroachment agreement. We'd want to be named as an additional insured on insurance, liability insurance, really for the purpose of, if someone walks into that pole, hits it with a car, a bike, gets hurt as a result of these improvements. And if there's, we haven't really talked about it, but is it just cover and for, call it aesthetics and cover for the sidewalk? Or is there thought, I know we talked before about putting tables or kind of, any encroachment agreement, there would be an encroachment agreement, and there would be liability insurance component to it, and it would lay out the terms upon which the continued use could occur. Just similar to what we did with Harry's.
What is the usage intended?
Well, right now, I just want to get this, that space. I would like to, like most other people, put chairs out front or benches, things like that.
Once you do that, will you still have a 4-foot unobstructed pathway?
Then it would probably be less than that, but you'd still have 5 feet on the outside of it. You can still walk underneath it or walk around it.
Yes.
Mr. Hartman, you mentioned liability insurance. That's gonna be, would that be on the owner or on the city?
On the owner. So the owner is going to have liability insurance anyway, and then we want to make sure the city's what they call an added insured on that, but specifically for out there, meaning obviously something happens inside the restaurant that wouldn't kick in. But if, especially when they have tables or whatever's going on out there, someone falls, someone gets hurt, anything like that, and the city gets sued, that there's insurance there to cover it, and that's on the owner. So the owner his policy would name us as an additional insurer.
Okay, I'm gonna pick a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, not just you, this question is wide open. And as the mayor stated, and we discussed this at a meeting before, if we do this, it kind of opens the door for others. It sets a precedence. And let's just say, for example, if it's approved and there's post or what have you, cables, etc., applied to city property on the sidewalk, that business goes out of business.
Yep.
It's still sitting on city property. Who's liable then?
What we would probably have to write in there is that the property owner, whoever that is, whether the business is operating or not, has to insure the city for any liability associated with those improvements on city property. right?
But if that business owner goes out of business and they leave town,
And I guess I don't want to mix the business and the property owner, right? So let's say the business goes out, which if I was the property owner, I'm leasing it, which I know that's not the scenario here, but generally speaking, right? You say, hey, the restaurant went out of business. You lease the space to somebody who goes out of business. Then that falls on the owner. So now the owner of that property needs to get a general liability policy that names the city as an additional insured. But like you say, what if they just go defunct? They just,
right?
dust is rolling down, so there's no one to get a hold of. Then we give them notice that needs to be removed. And then when they don't remove it, because there's no one to be found, then we remove it. And if we could, right? If we found it to be now a danger or a risk or a hazard or anything like
But
that.
if those poles are holding up a pretty heavy structure,
I know, it's,
and again, when I said business owner, I just assumed that I was combining the business owner with the property owner. And I was kind of putting those two together.
yep. I mean, ultimately, it's the property owner,
Yeah.
period, right? They're the ones that are gonna be signing the encroachment
Exactly.
agreement. Yep. But no, you're right. Absolutely, given some of our literally experience over the last 20 years, you can see, where a lot of places, it probably wouldn't get that far, but we've had it get that far here before. So it would give us heartburn. I mean, it'd be a problem.
So this encroachment agreement then would have to go with the heirs and the signs?
It absolutely would, yeah.
I'm sorry, go with the what?
Heirs and assigns, anyone who buys the property.
Oh, heirs.
Or who inherits the property,
Oh.
or who is assigned the property.
It'll run with the land.
Mhm.
And that's good, but let me pick one a little bit more.
Everything is good.
With the attorney. This business property owner goes defunct, that word was used. They let the insurance elapse. There's no more liability insurance. What position does that put us in?
Two things. One, we probably want to, if we start allowing this, all around town, then we would want people to submit annually their certificate of insurance covering the year. If, just as you say, they fail to do so because they go out of business, whatever, then, as a practical matter, and someone goes out there and gets hurt and they sue the property owner in the city's insurance would kick in, but I can see our insurance company kind of getting a little, giving us a hard time about it. It's not gonna help, it's not gonna help our insurance rates, it's potentially an exception to our policy. City attorney's gonna end up potentially handling it instead of insurance counsel.
Can I ask
So-
something real quick?
Yes.
So we're talking about if the business is closed and someone gets hurt on the sidewalk, how would that be that property owner's fault if that's not his property? Like if somebody falls in front of my building, am I gonna get sued? It's the city's
I
property.
think Commissioner Melander is more referring to if something happens to the actual structure. No?
Both,
Mhm.
both. And I hope that I was clear on that to the attorney.
Yeah.
I'm implying both.
Well,
Okay.
what
Any liability that may fall upon the city in the future if
Mhm.
we allow this to happen on our sidewalks within the city.
Mhm.
Not just Mr. Allen.
Yeah.
And I think we need to keep in mind, as I said in the beginning, and then Commissioner Melander reiterated that if this is allowed, then we can expect that others will demand the opportunity to do the same.
Sure.
And I think that if that happens, it will change the character of Carrabelle. I'm not saying good or bad or ugly, I don't know, but I know that it would change the character of Carrabelle. And I think this is something that we need to give some strong consideration and know what the public wants, if the public wants to change the character of Carrabelle or not. And I think we need to think this out. It needs to be thought out very well and done in a uniform fashion and not, personally, I don't think we need to have hodgepodge of awnings. If we're gonna do this, if is a big word, then we need to think it out. We need to understand exactly what we want it to look like say like Helen, Georgia. I don't know if any of you all have ever been there, but they decided they wanted to look like a German town, and they got together and had some architectural design and set up some design standards and had studies done years ago in the 60s, 70s, and they've got their German town. So I still have more to say, but I think Commissioner Millender wants to.
I got something I want to
Okay.
ask, gentlemen.
Commissioner Ward.
Have you, excuse me, have you seen a contractor about building you an awning without the poles?
It can be done, is you gotta have the cantilever, which means we'll have to do a lot of framing on the inside. It's not as strong as I would like to be. We might be able to pull it off, but as I talked to the contractors, the best way and easiest way is to put the poles down. So he wants to know, let's try that route. If that route's not gonna work, then we will tackle, another
I'm
route.
really concerned about putting those poles on our sidewalks, and just like the mayor said, it's said presidents. Who's gonna come up next? They want
And
to put something on the city sidewalk, are we gonna?
Yeah.
And that's my biggest concern. I do think there is a possible way to build your awning without, but.
Oh, there's ways, and I've been trying every which way to do that.
Yeah.
I know you guys did a temporary one for Harry's Bar, but that's only because they're remodeling on the inside.
we did not say they could do a temporary awning. Now, they did put a tarp out
Oh,
there.
I thought they
They don't have a temporary awning built onto their,
And that's only temporary.
right, that's temporary sidewalk encroachment while they're doing construction inside. Is that correct, Mr. Hartman, for Harry's?
Yes.
Okay,
But they still had to maintain the safe travel
yes.
on that sidewalk,
Mhm.
the minimum standards, which I think is 4 feet.
And at this point, I'm not saying yay or nay. My thoughts on it are that it needs to be well thought out, because we know if this is approved, then others are going to want to do it, and you can't blame them. And I would probably want to do it myself, but I feel like it needs to be done in a uniform fashion. I feel like if we're going to do this, we need to have a comprehensive analysis conducted by a civil engineer and an architectural engineer. We need to look at building heights and sidewalk widths all over the area where we're intending to do this. We need to locate the area where we would want to do this. We need to understand the sidewalk, the curb to sidewalk heights. In some locations, the street and the sidewalk are the same. There's no curb. I mean, it could be you could easily drive up on the sidewalk accidentally. We need to understand where there's areas of pavement bird bathing. That's where we have little flooding areas that come off the pavement onto the sidewalk, where the street and the sidewalk are the same level. And so now we're going to people are going to want to put awnings there, and then the next thing you know, they've got their tables sitting in little bird baths. We need to know how this is going to work with the parking space design that we have now. We need to understand the street widths, how this is, going to work with the vehicles coming through. We need to know where the fire hydrants are located, where the utility poles are located on these sidewalks, so that we can design in a uniform fashion how these awnings are going to look throughout town. Now, that's just my opinion. If the majority of the board wishes to go with a one at a time, then it's the majority vote here.
Alan, I'd like to make a closing statement if I can.
Okay.
As far as me, and I want you to understand, fully support businesses and your business and
Oh, yeah, I know that.
and Carrabelle. And we want you to have a successful business and an attractive business. I do, and I think you want the same.
Oh, yes, sir, definitely.
But I do feel kind of in the direction that I've already illustrated. From where we're sitting, we need to weigh all the pros and cons as to what door we're opening or may open.
All right.
But we need to, my feeling, we need to weigh all the pros and cons, and and make a decision, not make a decision tonight. I know that's probably not what you wanna hear.
No, I know it's a long progress,
Yeah.
we've been doing this for a while.
I wanna make the best decision for the city of Carrabelle from where I'm
I'm in the
sitting.
same boat, I love Carrabelle, I tell all my friends it's Mayberry on the water, and I wanna keep that hometown
Right,
feel and everything. Most of the people already have awnings on my street,
that's
and
right,
to try to get them all to look the same, you'd have to tear down what was already there.
yes.
Because mine can't match theirs, theirs can't match mine. I don't know how you're gonna make it cookie cutter for everybody down the street. And I'm kind of a weird one because I had just got a lot of sidewalk.
Commissioner Allen would like to speak.
Sure.
I think the argument that if we do it here, then everybody can do it, that has to be made, each individual has to have their own evidence, but it's the same old thing that when Johnny comes in and says, I want this because everybody else has got it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not what we're dealing with here, we're dealing with the facts of the situation, what it will do, what it won't do, and if anybody else wants to do it, they'll have to come up and have the same arguments and for theirs. And my personal opinion is that I don't see there's a big, excuse me, a big problem here. And it stands on its own or falls on its own. And it's not a matter of that everybody else is gonna want it too. I can say, well, I want one on my gallery too, you know.
You got a little one on here.
And then Tamara would want it on her business down there too. And then you got, there's no end to that.
Mhm.
But each one has to be made on an individual basis on the rules and the regulations and the injuries and all of those kind of things have to be taken into it. And if, we can look at it from that standpoint, I believe, and I think we need to make not the old Johnny, well, he did it, so I can get it too.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like on a one by one, because not everybody's got as much sidewalks as I do, which is one good thing that helps me. You can't get to me anyway because they're in palm trees or anyway, so, things like that. And you'll still have 5 feet of whatever they want to do in the front and 8 on the side, pretty much. And I can stay away from the light poles, fire hydrants, all that stuff. But, hey, think about it, come take a look at it, walk around it, see what you think. Any other
Would we
questions?
like to take action this evening?
No, ma'am, I'm gonna make a motion that we table this
All right,
for further research. And Commissioner Allen, his statements, I listened to them very closely, good statements. Some of the things that were already mentioned about the liability and where we're gonna position ourselves as a city is gonna be important for me to look at and look at your location.
all right.
But I just make a motion, we table it for further discussion and review.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. That's table for further research, discussion, and review by Commissioner Milner, second by Commissioner Walden. Is there discussion?
I just want to say, we're not against your own.
No, I knew it was gonna be a fun
It's
thing.
just putting those on that city sidewalks. My problem, I don't know about the rest of the.
So if it wasn't for the poles, you'd be all.
I don't.
If you,
Yeah, I mean, as long as it looks nice, yes. There's gotta be a way to do it by those poles.
I would say, my discussion is, and I've got a question to Mr. Hartman too regarding a procedure here too. But, if you want to put an awning without attaching it to the city property, that's a different story. You can put an awning. I mean, they put an awning over Gina's Flower Shop and use a facade grant.
Yeah,
And that's what you originally wanted, a facade grant, but they didn't attach that awning to the city property, publicly owned
Yeah,
property.
she went with canvas, and I was hoping to put something more.
I think hers is, I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's canvas or
I
not,
think
but
it's
they did
aluminum
put a,
with the canvas.
they did, okay, thank you. But they did put an awning there. Mr. Hartman, so when an item is tabled, does that mean that it needs to come up at the next commission meeting, the next meeting that we have?
We should, just good practices, when you table something, you state in it when it'll come back before you. If you don't state it, then typically it's assumed it's coming back up at the next, which, this one's confusing because we're at a special meeting right now, so it would be at the next regularly
Commission.
scheduled meeting, commission meeting. So normally you table something at a commission meeting, then it's gonna come up at the next commission meeting. But to be like formal, you typically wanna say, I'm tabling it, so then to be heard, to be brought back up at, and then you tell the date.
Okay, so what I'm understanding now, the way that the motion has been made is that, with all due respect, that it's been tabled, but no date has been set for the table, so then it will come up at our next regular commission meeting again on November the 3rd.
Yes.
Good, but can I respond to,
Sorry.
yeah, I'm not here. Alan asked a question I'd like to respond to.
Okay.
Sure.
He asked a question. If he built his awning without the poles, would there be a problem? My response is just what you just said. If he built the awning, if you wanted to put your awning up without attaching, without poles, that's gonna be connected to city property, just see Keisha and get a permit.
All right, I'll just talk it over with my guys, see what we can come up with. We've been looking at it, and we're trying to go both ways. I prefer to have poles, just for the structural, it'd be a lot nicer.
Well, again, I hope I explained myself, my position.
Yeah,
That if you put it up, if you put your awning up, attached it to your building, nothing attached to the city property, that would simplify things a lot as far as us being concerned about liability and other issues.
all right. We'll see what we can come up with. If not, we'll try again on the 3rd. Okay.
All right, so we will table this item to the 3rd. Okay, and, you know, I'm concerned about what this is gonna do, you know, to the look of Carrabelle in the future.
Oh, I get
And
that. I mean,
you know, I just want to, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, and I've talked with the attorney and with our civil engineer about it, and they agree that we need to go about this in a methodical way, and make sure that we're understanding how these awnings will look in the future, and exactly what it will do to Carrabelle. And if we want to change the look of Carrabelle, it may be a good thing. You know, I'm not saying good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're going about this in the right manner.
okay.
And, you know, I wish you the best, and it would be great if you could go ahead and get your awning done and apply for a CRA grant while we have some available. We have only 5 this year because of budget constraints. So, you know, a person might need to make plans to move forward.
This is true.
Okay. All right, so any other discussion?
No, ma'am.
Any other discussion? All right, then, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed to tabling this to November 3rd? All right, then, that motion carries.
All right.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I noticed that we had one attendee come in during this discussion, and if the attendee would like to speak under the next item, a speaker card needs to be completed and turned into Ms. Keisha on the parking item. Okay, so we have item 2, discussion and possible action regarding downtown Carrabelle Business Parking. And I'm just gonna give a quick kind of an update like I do. Before I do that, I just want to let Commissioner Brown know that I did finally get to see all of the emails that you were referring to at our workshop. I requested a copy of those emails, and I got those on the day after the workshop. And I did see there were like 7 or 8 of them, and I've got their names listed here, but I won't call them out. And overwhelmingly, they say something needs to be done, and they, you know, someone asked about how is this going to be enforced, and but they do want something done. All right, then there was a separate email from another person who's actually in this meeting tonight, and I received that way early on. So, and these parking issues have been going on for a while, we know it. But at the September 27th workshop, the attendees complained about the truck trailer units parking in front of businesses downtown, taking up 2 or 3 spaces for one truck trailer unit. They complained of workers parking directly in front of businesses. And we reviewed the existing ordinance and how that ordinance or an amendment ordinance would be enforced. We described the development of a new boat ramp overflow parking area and the new paved alternate connector routes for anglers to exit the boat ramp area to Highway 98. There was a suggestion to place a time frame limit on the hours allowed for parking. There was a detailed discussion and description regarding towing and its effectiveness and its drawbacks and the implications involved around towing vehicles. We learned that we cannot pick and choose who will and will not be enforced and towed. So that could apply to business owners and employees alike. And it was stated that something needs to be done to help with the congestion downtown on Marine Street, and that something needs to be done with business parking. So we came to I watched the meeting this morning, again, the video, and we didn't agree in principle on anything, but it seems like we came to a consensus, this board, with the attendees, that as a first step, signage is needed to discourage the truck trailer unit parking along the Marine Street Business District. But we all agreed, the attendees as well, that we wanted to be careful not to discourage the anglers from coming to Carrabelle. We tentatively agreed to posting signage saying no vehicular truck trailer combination parking in the business district. But we, needed to come up with the final wording for this signage. That still needed to be determined. We didn't agree in principle on a location for this signage. We discussed Southeast Avenue C and Marine Street. All agreed that we had a lot of problems that could be managed as a first step with signage. And we felt, too, that the business owners needed to cooperate with each other to designate employee parking that is out of the way of the business parking for their patrons. Now, I talked to one business owner today who I think was under the impression that we would put signage at each parking space that said customers only, but I do not remember we discussed anything like that in the meeting. I don't remember hearing words like that during the video. If there's anyone in here, I think we could go ahead and hear from the public right now, if that's all right, unless one of the commissioners has something they want to say at this point.
I did just want to reiterate
Okay.
that none of the businesses wanted anything to do with parking, towing.
Okay.
That was
All right.
never brought up to me by any of the businesses, and I talked to just about everyone. We
Okay.
didn't want towing or ticketing.
All right.
We just wanted signs.
Okay, and I did notice, though, in your original email that you sent out to several business owners, that you had talked about, let's see, you
That
wanted...
was suggested
Yeah.
from the chief, and so instead of ticketing, he suggested towing, because they wouldn't be able to, they didn't have the manpower to police it, or whatever it was that he said at the first meeting, so that's what I suggested. It was just a
Okay.
discussion, but the business owners never wanted either. We just wanted signs that discouraged people from parking there all day long.
Okay.
And
And so
loads of trailers parking
all
in
right,
front
and
of
I
it.
did read in your email that you had written vehicle parking only, 1 hour parking, 2 hour parking limit, and violators would be towed. And that would be posted, I guess, in front of the parking spaces. I don't know, I don't think that you all had worked that out. And so that's all I know.
So would I
Right
have to
now.
move my car every 2 hours?
Yes, you can
That
move your
would
car.
not be, the street where he parks was not on the map.
Okay,
And people working in Tamara's office that
No,
It's
she
not
wouldn't
on
have
that
to,
either.
but I don't know if we're going that, that route, I'm not sure. Did you, yes, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to just make one statement, and I do agree, I'm ready to hear, I'm ready to hear from the public first, and let's talk about it. But I may suggest that we take on the business area first, from Avenue B to 98, and not try to jumble the pavilion parking in with the
Yes.
business parking and the trailer parking. I suggest we take the business first and then move ourselves south on Marine Street.
And so what area is that you'd like?
I'm just saying the business district on the south side of 98 is from Avenue B. Yeah, Avenue B,
From 98
from
to,
98 to Avenue B.
or C?
C.
C,
That's-
yeah, not, that's right, C, yeah.
And
I'm
then
looking at it.
Tallahassee Street,
Excuse me?
do you also,
Well, we can include Tallahassee Street, yeah, because that's business parking right there.
And what do you say is the business area there or district?
Meridian to 98?
Next.
Primarily Meridian to 98,
Or to Avenue A even?
even.
We do have an attorney up that way and fire truck, firehouse. Either, you know.
That's mostly
Carrabelle
residential.
Hotel, you got it there.
When you pass Meridian, it doesn't seem to be an issue.
Mhm.
There's plenty of parking there.
So just the first block on Tallahassee, okay.
I think it'll work out better doing this by taking care of
I
the
agree.
district.
If we jumble it all together, it gets confusing.
Yes, it does.
It does, it
Mhm.
really does.
All right.
Anyway, I'll hush.
And that's why I said we're not gonna discuss one way tonight, because they just, anyway. All right, so we know then that we're gonna deal with the business area on the south side of 98, that's Marine Street from the first two blocks going south from 98 to Southeast Avenue C. And then we're gonna deal with the business area on the first block of Tallahassee Street. Is that, we're all in agreement on that? Okay, so now do we have someone, any public comment?
I don't have any cards.
Okay, and who do you have for item 2?
I just put questions that I did.
Debbie,
She has a card.
Okay, very good. Come forward and identify yourself.
Okay. I am Debbie Hollema. We own Carrabelle Custom Canvas, and we're actually off of 98, so we're not in the area that you speak of. But as a citizen, AKA Chamber Girl, I just, I was at a gift shop on Marine Street a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't believe that a truck was parked there well over an hour the whole time I was in the area. And I don't know where they were. They weren't in her shop. I actually went to the shop across the street. They weren't in that shop. I'm lucky as a business owner that I have a private parking lot. So we don't have to worry about people parking right in front of our business. As a character issue, I can't even imagine parking in front of a gift shop and just leaving my vehicle. But apparently people are doing that nowadays. I would never even consider doing that. But apparently they are. And I think as a city, if it's not, you know, their private parking space, then you do have an obligation to give them some chance to have just signage to just try to persuade them from doing that, so that they can have actual shoppers that are gonna spend money go into their shop and not have a vehicle that we don't even know where these people are, taking up their front parking. So that's, you know, my opinion on that as a citizen and a shopper.
What kind of signage? What would you say that it would, how would it
I
read?
like the 2-hour limit because it allows them, you know, if they're going to the grill at Harry's, it'll allow them to have a leisurely lunch. You know, they're not rushing to have an hour lunch. So I kind of like the 2-hour. I think that's a good compromise of a time for a vehicle to be there I'm not saying that we have to like label each parking spot. I think that's going a little bit over and beyond. However, I do think having a few parking signages, letting them know that these are businesses, shop, I don't know the verbiage that you might want to use, but something to the effect that it's for shoppers on Marine Street in those stores or at the restaurant.
Like customer parking.
Yeah, I don't think you have to identify each spot to that store because, there's not enough spots for the amount of stores. But, in the real estate business, we slap a 3-day sign, hoping that we don't have to go through the whole foreclosure process and that it will just persuade them to do what they're supposed to do. And that often works. So I think, I understand why you don't want to get into towing and fining and using other resources. So just that initial signage, I think would persuade, I can't even believe, like I said, that people do that. I would never go and park my car in front of a store and then walk off for hours. But apparently it happened because I saw it with my own eyes. So yeah, I think you do have an obligation to the businesses that, their store is not on private parking spots and they can't do it for themselves.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we know it does happen. Did you all have questions for Ms.
No, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other public comment at this time? Any other public comment? I need to cough. Excuse me. Cough drop.
How about
Okay.
some chocolate?
No, thank you. I haven't had dinner yet.
This is not COVID.
Who knows?
There's a story behind that.
I guess. Okay. Now, there's no other public comment.
Okay, well, let me
Okay.
open this up and see if we create any public comment or commissioner comment.
Mhm.
Unless someone has a better suggestion, and I'm sure there is, in the business area that we have mentioned, signage saying customer parking only, period. In those areas that we identified that we're covering right now.
Mhm.
Just signage, customer parking only.
And where
Well,
do we?
customer parking only should alleviate a boat and trailer combination parking sideways, and
They can be shopping.
the
They could be
majority
drinking.
of those boat trailers are there to go to a bait and tackle store. We don't have a bait and tackle store on either one of those streets. It would be very few, if you ever had one, that parked in one of those parking
It
spaces,
happens about once a week.
really. Okay.
I seen
Well,
Courtney pictures of it in front of my store, and they were shopping, but it took up every parking space on the street.
anyway, let me back up. That's all I had to say to generate some conversation. And to put customer parking only. There's probably a lot more ideas. Maybe we'll hear some of them. Thank you.
I like the idea that we discussed and came to a general consensus at the workshop that we should post signage at Southeast Avenue C, I believe it was, that, and maybe coming in off Highway 98, although that's all concrete around there, we probably have to drill into the concrete. But no vehicular trailer units.
No combination traffic.
Combination.
Vehicle combination traffic. Yep. That was mentioned.
Would they understand that that meant that no trailer?
I don't even think they would see.
But not traffic now, parking,
Oh, parking.
yeah. Because we haven't gotten to the one-way thing or anything like that, but no parking, no vehicle trailer combination parking or parking in the business district.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
I'm good with that. I was just trying to, in my mind, try to make it as simple as possible without a ton of signage and to help with the issue. And I'm good with that. Now, I do remember us having, and I think I was the one that threw up the no truck and trailer combination parking. My mind was set basically south of Avenue C in front of the condos. Because you really need to stop it right there beyond the condos because you're turning into combination parking there.
So right there where that alley is, where the little deteriorated brick building, somewhere in that
Somewhere
area?
in that area.
Uh-huh. And then from there to 98, in between there, no, I mean, that, you know, that sounds good to me, and customer parking only is okay as well. We would need to know where all of these signs would need to be posted. They need to look the same, they need to be consistent. Actually, all of our signage everywhere needs to look, to be consistent, yes. So that we have a good look. The TDC has gone to that at the beaches, and I've talked to Courtney about this for almost a year now. We just haven't done it.
I'd like to ask a question
Okay.
on that for the attorney and for the chief when you make it. Just using as an example, between Christie's Cottage and Sabrina's store, instead of having a sign at each individual parking spot, could we have one at each end with arrows pointing between these signs?
I spoke to the chief about this, and I think he said around 50 feet.
Yeah.
They didn't have to be super close. We wouldn't need them in every spot, and that, I believe he said, like, in that street you're talking about, we could put 2. I believe that's what.
Yeah, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do the signs every so many feet, or you can do no parking in between the signs or whatever, or you only have 2 signs that would show that area. I think the best way to word that for the truck and trailer would be no truck and trailer parking beyond this point. Maybe that would be a better way to word it, to where after this point that you get into the business district, there's no truck and trailer parking. That would help us to be able to make contact with anybody who does not see that sign and decides to park there. So, but I think, Commissioner Miller, the best way to do that would be either the signs every so many feet, or just no parking in between signs, or parking in between signs, which way you ever want to word it.
And wanted your and the attorney's direction on that, because my thought is if we put signs at each individual parking spot, that's a lot of signage.
It is. It's tacky.
That's a lot of signage, yes.
Yeah,
If we could do it
Timber Island, they have 2
aesthetically,
signs.
yeah.
That same thing, no parking in between signs.
Yeah.
So, or custom only parking in between signs, or however you want to word it, and then you just have 2 signs. So, and then keep in mind too, the signs have to be certain colors to be enforced. So they have to be red and white. Like the no parking down to the boat ramp, the 2 no parking signs to be enforced, that they have to be certain colors, can't be yellow and black. Those are caution signs. So keep that in mind as well too when we choose colors.
And Commissioner Millender, at the last meeting, we talked about a sign that said no truck trailer parking.
Correct.
But then Commissioner Millender said, but they'll hook it to a van, or they'll hook it to a moped, or whatever, you know, and so then he came up with no vehicular or vehicle
Combination.
truck.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
have vehicle and trailer parking.
Period.
Because vehicle is anything that's motorized, that's movable, whether it be a golf cart or go-kart or scooter or van or truck or semi or whatever the case may be. So.
Let's see, customer parking. Okay, so I wanted to just mention that, so you say customer parking, between these, I don't have a problem with that, but so now somebody comes and parks, and like Miss Debbie explained, now they're parked. But they're not in the shop that they parked in front of, and they're not in that shop over there. Oh, excuse me. Yeah,
$25 fine.
I know it. Turn that phone off.
Get off.
Where is it?
Our tech expert.
If the person has gone, maybe 2 blocks down the street? You know, how do
All
you?
you do is run the tag and find out who they are and try to locate them. I know I hear a lot of the radio Apalachicola has that issue with people parking in crosswalks, on the edge of sidewalks, that sort of thing, and they have to locate them. That's what they go and do, and so that would be our only option. One of the questions I did have, if y'all do the 2-hour limit on there of the parking, who are you gonna call to enforce that after the fact? You know what I mean? Because if you have a business owner that watches somebody that's been there for 3 hours, of course they need to call somebody, to go, hey, this car's been here for this length of time. So,
Mayor,
Well, I want to go, let me go back to customer parking.
okay.
Because maybe they went down the street and they're in another business down the street.
Well,
They parked here, they walked down the boardwalk, and then they went in another business. They're a customer. Doesn't say a customer of this store.
Right. A customer is a customer.
That's
No matter
the
which
way
you-
I see it.
you
And
look at
will the business owners understand that a customer is a customer?
Yeah, 'cause
They
you
could go across 98 and be at the gift shop or the gallery or wherever.
They may park in one spot and hit every business in town.
We hope they do, we usually send them to other businesses.
We want
yeah.
foot traffic.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
that's
Yes.
exactly what I was gonna ask, if we could hear from the business owners, any of them in the audience that wanted to, because I'm more in favor of customer parking only and not 2-hour parking. And to help try to make it better for the businesses and make it workable for your officers. And that's just my thinking, but I wanted to hear from the business district on how they feel.
Because I think if you deal with the truck and trailer issue, which was the start of this whole fiasco, if you deal with the truck and trailer parking, you're gonna eliminate 90% of the problem. You know, you're gonna open it up for the customers and the parking, and, you know, yeah, you still may have employee issues, or maybe some owner issues, or whatever. Maybe even some of the delivery trucks that come in that deliver to the restaurants, the food, they park in the middle of Main Street while they unload, because they're driving semis, you know, but that's not a real big issue. The issue is the truck and the trailer parking, taking up too many places.
Well, I want to say too, real quick, that I know the local newspaper editor who talked to me about it, because he's heard about this goings on, and the TDC executive director, who's also the executive director of the Apalachicola Bay Chamber, who also knows about these goings on. And they both said, do not put 2-hour parking, do not put towing, because that's the first thing that visitors will not feel welcome. They won't feel welcome, and they just won't even stop. That is not a welcome to Carrabelle sign when you do something like that. So, and we want to promote our visitors to come.
Absolutely.
And we never wanted towing. That was not anything any business owner ever suggested or
But the
wanted.
business owner didn't, but it was in your email.
Because that was what was suggested from staff.
Oh, okay, that wasn't made clear in the email.
It was
Sorry.
made plenty clear afterwards at every
Okay.
single meeting.
And to add to what you just said and what has been said and how I feel, and I say how I feel, what I'm thinking. And where my thinking's coming from is, you mentioned Apalachicola. I've had quite a bit of conversation about parking in Apalachicola in the last 2 weeks. A lot of folks over there, because I see, and I'm using Apalachicola because they're here in our county, they're close to us. And they have parking issues too. And they park, a customer for this business will park in front of this business, and they may be 3 blocks down the road in another business. And they're all over. And the mayor mentioned Helen, Georgia tonight. If you've been to Helen, Georgia, I've been to Helen, Georgia, and all those places up there. And I have actually parked in some of in front of their businesses, and I've spent hours and hours going up and down the strips there. So anyway, and I'm not trying to throw against the businesses. I'm just saying, if that is a potential customer or customer parking only, and as what's been said, they may be parking in front of Sabrina's business, but going over to Chase's business or somebody else's
Or
business.
down to the Marine
Yeah.
Street Grill to eat.
Yep.
The biggest
Or
issue,
across
I
the
think,
street.
for the businesses there is just what the chief just said, is someone taking with mostly a combination vehicle, and they're taking up 4 or 5 parking spots, not just one. And, they may be 60 miles offshore fishing. Yeah, now that's a different story.
And I would say one thing that we don't want, and I don't know, a lot of you may not know, my brother, who's now deceased, owned a popular restaurant here for over 20 years. And he wanted cars in front of his business. And if there were not cars in front of his business, then he brought his car around, and all his employees brought their car around, and to make it look like there was business. I don't want to ride through the intersection down there, our main intersection, and look to the right and the left, and I don't see any cars. You know, I don't want to discourage people parking. And if there's no business, maybe you want to pull your car in front of your business to make it look like you have business, until you get so overcrowded that you need to move your car or have your employee move your car. But yes, we want it to look active in downtown Carrabelle. We really do. We don't want it to look like a ghost town, or that the shops are closed or something like that.
And we want people to come back.
I've got a question. How would you enforce the 2 hours? Do you have a meter, or are you gonna chalk mark on it?
That's
Say
my
come back
question.
2 hours and.
Commissioner Allen, that was my question. I mean, I don't wanna touch nobody's vehicle. I'll just go ahead and tell you that,
That's-
because they come back and say, oh, you damaged this, or you did this to it, or whatever the case may be. So that's why it's a question after 2 hours, who are you gonna call? So I think with the signs, I think with the customer parking only, I think with the no truck or trailer parking down at this point, that will help us to enforce if there does somebody that slips through or doesn't know where to park. We can get out in contact with them, hopefully, get them pointed in the right direction. They're happy, we're happy, business owners are happy, everybody coming back to spend their money. So,
I think we're moving away from the 2-hour concept. Do you feel that way, Commissioner Brown?
Well, that was kind of a 50-50 thing with the businesses. Some wanted a limit, some didn't care, they just wanted it. The customer parking only was the main part, and the no trucks or trailers. My suggestion is customer parking only, 8 AM to 5 PM, single vehicles only, or no trailers, or however you want to word that. Just maybe 2 on each block, like what we talked about, not every parking space, that's way too much. That'll look crazy. But just keep it simple.
And so, your signs then every 50 feet, and then we wouldn't have a huge investment in signage, and if it didn't work out, we had to reword the signs, or we don't need the signs, they could be either replaced with different wording, or removed.
yeah, but it's imperative that you have the no truck and trailer parking
Right.
signs
Yes.
for sure. Because after 5 o'clock, what if a truck and trailer pulled in there at 6 PM? Now, they've loaded their boat on Log Island, they parked there, and now we have no way to.
So Commissioner Brown said the customer parking only, 8 AM to 5 PM.
And then at the bottom say single vehicles only, or no trailer, or how,
Well, then
however you
we
want to
would
word
have
that.
different
No
signage for the truck trailer, the vehicular trailer combination. We would have different signage located in a
Yeah, you would
different.
have it, you would have a certain area where they would, truck and trailer parking on, it would be outside of Avenue C, back toward the south,
That's
back toward
makes
up
it
C,
easy.
and parking, extra parking lot that we're gonna.
And someone said beyond this point, I think it was you
Yeah.
that said beyond this point, so you would put no
No truck.
Vehicle or trailer
vehicle-
park, vehicle or trailer
vehicle
parking.
trailer
beyond
parking
this point.
beyond this point. And so we would put that probably on both sides of the sidewalk.
Right,
We put
I
that,
mean, both sides of the street.
we would probably want that to be a large sign on Marine Street down there, where they could actually see that when they were traveling north, coming back that way.
yeah, we've actually discussed that as well too, and I know it's not really the time or place, but a big sign that has all the rules and regulations right there, where people pull up to see that they can't miss it, like almost the size of a billboard, maybe half that size.
And Courtney and I, we've talked about that, designing one. We could probably design one ourselves without hiring it designed, and then get sign design to make it.
Yeah.
And probably have to put it up at the bio retention cell there, that rain garden area at the boat ramp.
Yeah. You can put it there, or
I
you can
hate,
put it right in
you
the
know, all the
triangle
signage, it's so
parking.
tacky, but
Yeah.
sometimes we have to have,
Well,
Most people don't even notice it,
Yeah.
I promise.
But if you have it big and bold with bold lettering, with all the rules and regulations, it's plain right there in front of you.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's easy for me to go, look, you walk right past the sign, you
Yeah.
could have saw it, you know, so.
and with the parking, a map where the overflow parking is gonna be, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about signs, you can put anything on there you want to, so.
nothing, I was just
Okay.
gonna say, that was my, my thought process on trying to, eliminate a sign at every parking spot. It
That's
just, it would,
too
it would
much.
be way overwhelming to do that. And we need to do it legally, but we need to, not make it overwhelming.
I agree.
And I want the businesses, when they see, if they see somebody in violation of those signs with a truck and trailer, call us so we can come deal with them before they walk away.
Mm.
That way we can make contact with them,
Quickly.
point them in the right direction, even maybe take them to where they need to park or show them whatever.
Mhm.
So, because if you don't call us right away and we get down there and they're gone, their truck's locked up and they've gone and broke the dog out, we're not getting in touch with them for a day or two. So,
I have one other question.
Okay.
It's, for Commissioner Brown and these business owners out here. I suggest business parking only, not put any times on it. Because the times for, your business, your businesses, Christie's Cottage, the Junction, maybe 8 to 5, but Harry's is not.
Well, that's what we had talked about with Kim and Mr. Henry at the last time, and I believe they said they were fine with that because it's not gonna have a 2-hour thing, so it's either way, if they're parked in front of my store and they walk down to Harry's at 6 PM, no big deal.
No, but if they park, if we have that same signage in front of Harry's that says 8 to 5, then they're in violation after 5,
They're still
or
customers,
it's wide open.
then it's wide open.
Well, that's the reason why I said just customer parking only.
Right, I think it's, I mean, customer, I don't know why you really need a time. If it's for customer parking
I
only,
guess
then
if we
it's
take
for,
the 2-hour away, we wouldn't need the time.
you don't really
Maybe,
need,
I
you
don't
know,
know,
it's
the business
24
owners
hours a
might
day,
wanna say
customers only.
I'm gonna talk when he gets down.
Okay, Mr. Allen, please come to the podium.
I'm just listening in a little bit, I'm Alan Russell, but if you do customer only, all you have to do is go by, stick a gun, take a receipt, tape it to the window, you're good for days.
Now, do what now?
If you go into any shop and buy a $2 item, stick the receipt on the window,
Uh-huh.
now you can't touch me for the rest of the day, 24 hours. I got all the parking I want on customer.
And you've
Haven't done that,
That's
I know
true.
people,
you've abandoned your vehicle and left it there.
yeah, and you said customer only, and I can prove I'm a customer, it's taped to the window, if you give me a ticket or tell me, I'll just go ahead and say, there's a receipt on the dash or there's a receipt on the window, and you gotta think about that in your wording.
You trying to complicate this thing.
No, there's people, if you put a rule down that's halfway, they'll figure out the angles.
Hey, you're right.
I think that is why we started talking about the.
Because if you put it during business hours, normal business hours, you would be safer for those businesses that operate. Now, Harry's, you may wanna not put signs down there and just leave them out of that 2-hour thing. And you may wanna stick with more, if you're like at the hardware store in front of his building, or if you're at the antique shop, or if you're at the flower shop. You know, their business hours, and maybe just do them. You have to do it maybe a little bit business by business. But you can let Harry be its own thing.
What if we just not use a particular time like 8 to 5 and just say during business hours?
Then that makes it confusing, because of like what you said, every business is a little different. And that's why I suggested 8 to 5, because the earliest business opens at 8, the latest business closes at 5, and it just covers everyone.
But if you do business hours and you park in front of a business and his hours are posted, then that's where you get your hours.
Okay, so
You can do it that way.
customers can park 8 to 5 PM. Now who gets to park there the rest of the time?
As long as you don't get truck and trailers. You know.
I was suggesting the time because I was also suggesting a time limit. It's 2 hours between those times. After that, if they want to go have dinner at the restaurants and sit there for 3, 4, 5 hours, no big deal, because that's the only thing of it.
Well, the 2 hours, and we discussed that back at the workshop, it's gonna be hard, that's gonna be hard to enforce. And it's not that the chief doesn't want to enforce it, it's because, and I don't really like to talk about this in a public meeting, but I guess it's got to be said, we have one police officer per shift. I don't like to advertise that because we're a fairly big town. We have a lot of visitors, a lot of second homeowners, even though we have a small population. We have a large population that's here year-round. Off and on. We have one police officer per shift, and now a police officer's got to come out there and watch this vehicle for 2 hours and try to figure out if it's been there for 2 hours, and that's a code enforcement issue. And so now they're going to, if this is an ordinance, it will be done by ordinance, and they're going to have to try to enforce that, and we have one police officer.
Our current ordinance is for 1 hour, we're not
And they don't
enforcing it.
enforce it.
Right, so how would this be any different? The only thing the business owners want is for parking to be available for customers during business hours. We understand that we're a small town, we don't have the resources to have meter maids and all that kind of stuff. But if we put these signs out, it will deter 90% of the people that would be taking advantage of this to begin with.
And if we get someone complaining about that they parked a business owner calls and, look, I've got this car out here, it's been out here for 3 hours, I don't know where the people are. How is that going to be enforced? How will that be enforced? And we won't have, okay, so you got.
Has that happened in the past year?
I don't know.
Or 2 years?
I don't know.
We've had this in the books for 40 years now. We just want some signs.
Once you put those signs out there, they're gonna have to be enforced some way, somehow. I mean, just like the chief said, if you got your vehicle and your truck trailer unit come and park where we've asked them not to park, where signage is posted, they'll come out there and handle it. But if you've got someone out there that's been over a certain time limit, that is a complaint. That is a code enforcement complaint.
But no
and
one's made a complaint in years.
No one's made a complaint
We
in
understand
years.
as business owners that
Then
if
why
it
the
is a
time?
shopper and they are down at Harry's for an extra hour, we're not calling anybody on these people. They're spending money. That's what we want.
So if there's no complaint, there doesn't need to be a time. If we're not gonna have any complaints like you're suggesting, then there don't need to be a time.
This is supposed to be a deterrent.
That's what the signs are
And you
for.
need to have a warning for people to visually see it.
I get one with that.
Yeah.
I would put the signs as determined and not even try to enforce it. Like you said, 9 out of 10 people will pull
They're-
up, see it, and go, oh, we can't park here, we'll go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Well, I had a response to your example you gave, which is a good example, Al.
Yeah,
But how often is that gonna happen?
they're pretty smart. And if you let people trailers in,
That ain't gonna happen often.
no, but once one guy gets away with it, and he tells his buddy. it
But
won't
the
happen
truck
more.
and trailer, now we're gonna handle as a separate issue than this parking.
Yeah, I would put general signs that just start off small. You don't have to go full blown, just an easy sign. If it doesn't work, we'll swap the signs later down the road, next year. If it does work, we find out we don't need signs, the signs disappear. So, we'll keep it Mayberry. We'll just go simple and one little step, and if that doesn't work, we'll ramp up, and if it does, we'll go back.
That's kind of what I suggested until you threw that in.
I know.
I'm throwing the what if, because as soon as you said it, I figured a way around it, and I'm thinking, if I can figure it out sitting there for 2 seconds.
I know it,
We
I
can
know
sit
it.
here and talk about
Okay,
it.
Yeah.
okay.
Your turn.
Your son comes back up and here.
I just want to say one more thing. You're gonna have 3 types of people that go into business. You're gonna have an owner, the employee, and the customer. Plain and simple. That's the only 3 that you're gonna have going to business. Okay? The signs for the time will not pertain to them. There's no point in having the time. You're gonna have the truck and trailer parking issue resolved by the signs, and if there's a violation calls, we'll come deal with it. So you don't have to worry about truck and trailer parking there, so you don't need to worry about the time limit on the customer parking, because you don't want to mess with your customers. It doesn't matter if they're 2 hours or 10 hours there. Leave them alone, they're customers. Let them be. Forget the time, put the signs up, or deal with the truck and trailer. You know,
And where will the, okay, so if we've got customer parking only from here to here in the first block in Tallahassee Street, the first 2 blocks on the Marine Street, where will the employees park? Where will the workers
On the
park?
green areas, where the side streets, where we've talked about this. Very detailed.
We've talked about it in great detail, yes, as Commissioner Brown said. Have all of the employers agreed to that?
I sent this exact picture
On
to
each
the-
side of Tallahassee Street and Marine Street, they've all agreed that their employees won't park there, that it will be for customers only?
The only people I did not speak to was the junction.
Bo,
Would you like to hear from Mr. Bowe?
he put his thumbs down.
I know it. Would you like to speak, sir?
She's like,
Chase.
Okay.
I
I
support the officer.
I beg your pardon?
I support the officer.
Okay.
He's the one.
Time, things we're not gonna enforce, no need to do them.
Thank you.
I understand that, and I agree with that as well. I mean, if
We
we can't or not, intending to enforce it, then we don't need to be posting it.
No, absolutely. It's
Ab-
negative.
because it's not.
It is negative. Okay, Miss Chase,
Okay, y'all ask me again. Y'all saw me Tuesday, okay?
you got 3
My
minutes.
name is Chase Chisholm.
3 minutes.
I've had a business downtown in Carrabelle for over 7 years now. I've been on Tallahassee side, now I'm over Marine side. I've seen both things happen on both sides of the street, and I've asked about it, I've talked about it for 7 years now. One of the problems is with the trucks and the boats and the stuff. In fact, Tuesday when I left the CRA meeting, that's what I had sitting out front of my store, taking up 3 parking places for over 3 hours. They was at Harry's, which is great. I want people to go to these places, but the truck controller taking me to 3 places. I only got 3 places, and I'm sharing it with the flower lady. So, so that is an issue. One of the issues that I've had on both sides of the roads is employees parking. We've got people that are working, don't have their employees park in front of their store around the corner. They end up parking in front of someone else's business. You can go and talk to the people. I have done it. Nice as I could be, please ask your employees. That's taking up your parking for your customers too, because we've got such small parking in Carrabelle for customers. Well, it's city parking. It's up to the city to tell them to move. That's what I was told by one person. And then, so for over a year, I've put up with it, ain't said anything, because I've been waiting for this here to come up. Same thing's going on the other side of the road, even though they come and say up here that that's not going to take place. It took place the very next Sunday. It took place, I called all of you commissioners, y'all all know about it. A couple of one of you even come out and seen what I was having to deal with that day. So it's not just the trucks and the trailers, it's the employees being disrespectful to other ones, which I now think it should be under control. I've talked to the owner again and said there will not be another issue, or there will not be jobs for those people, because it is disrespectful. But anyway, customer parking problem. As far as the signs, yes, I think we do need signs just to deter the people from parking there. It's not that we're gonna go, oh, come, get them, they've been here for over 2 hours. That's not gonna happen. And if we see somebody pull up, I know it's all the business owners, nobody's out there to have somebody towed or anything like that. If I seen those people pull that truck and trailer up there and I knew the signs was there, I got them signs backing me, I would have said, sir, you probably didn't see the sign, but I don't want you to get in trouble or anything, but you can go down here. And I'm sure the other business owners would do the same thing. It's not like we're out to get anybody, but people nowadays don't know how to, they don't think, I think sometimes, I'm disrespecting these people, I'm just gonna park and do my thing, and then they jump on somebody else's vehicle and take off, and you don't see them for a day or 2 later. Meanwhile, these people that are struggling, trying to keep a business going in Carrabelle, is struggling because they have nowhere for their customers to park at. I think the signs for customer parking, we do need that. I think the signs for letting people know not to be bringing their trucks and trailers and vehicles and taking up all the parking places, we need that also. Where to place them at is something I thought that's what the workshop was gonna be about last time, but of course it was like a circus in here. And it very so disappointed me, and it's why I didn't get up and speak last time, and it's why I waited so long to speak today, because I was wanted to see, are we gonna try to do something about this, or are we gonna push it under the rug? Now, that's how I feel about the situation, as I said, and I am one of the oldest original store owners that's been here, and I'm telling you, it's hard having a store in Carrabelle. Our winter months is hard. It's hard to get through as it is, but I happen to have these everythings on us. Yes, Carrabelle's growing, and the sales are getting better, more people have moved here, and it's great, and it's wonderful, but we got to take care of what we got going on here, and let's build on it, and, you know, this ain't a perfect world. You're not gonna have all store owners do the rules and they're like, I don't care if they park over there in front of you. It's not a perfect world, and you might have that. So, but if we put those customer only signs up, that, you know, if it doesn't deter them, we already know who it is. We all know who works for who and where. It's not gonna be no big issue. As far as like towing and all, that's not what we're after. We just want a simple sign, and that's it. So that's all I have to say about it.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you want customer only, no vehicles?
With trailers.
No trailers.
Yes, sir.
Is that simple enough?
That's simple enough to me.
I think we're
Well, we
going.
gotta come to a conclusion.
I know
We
it.
can't just sit here forever.
Thank you.
Is that simple enough, Mr. May?
Is that simple?
Customer parking only?
Yes, sir.
And no vehicles?
No time, no.
And I would say, I would like to, personally, I would take Mr. Bo May's recommendation. He has sat on the CRA board for 5 or 6 years and gave us some very good and helpful advice on the CRA board. He's a promoter, an entrepreneur. He's got a business in downtown Carrabelle since, I don't know, maybe 2014 or something like that.
10.
20,
12.
okay, and I mean, it's a good looking business, and he has a stake in this as well.
Can I say?
So, yes, sir,
Can we, tonight,
I guess so.
instruct our city manager to come up with some signs just to look at in the next meeting where we can approve them or disapprove them?
Well, if you'd like to make that motion,
I'll make that motion.
okay, and what, all right, you want to make a motion?
And our city administrator can get with each one of the commissioners and the mayor separately and get their opinions. But we can't just keep sitting here.
I know it, I understand. So you want the city
Is
administrator
that good with you, Ms. Chisholm?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Bo?
to
Police
design,
chief? All right.
to design signage, 2 different signs that have customer parking only. And then the other one would be
For the boat.
no
Vehicles.
no vehicle trailer
Combination.
Combination.
combination beyond this point.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Exactly where I thought we were going earlier.
Yeah.
And then when I suggested.
Well, we get into these.
All right. Okay, so that's
I'll
your
second the
motion.
motion.
Okay.
Because I thought we had are we in discussion?
That,
Motion second, yep.
motion by Commissioner Walden for the city administrator to design a signage for customer parking only and to work with the chief on it, I think.
Yes.
And that's in discussion. And then also signage that says no vehicle trailer combination parking beyond this point. And to bring that to us at the November 3rd meeting. And that's second by Commissioner Miller. Is there discussion?
Yes. No, I don't really need to discuss, but I just want to reiterate what I'd already said earlier. Is, as an example for our administrator to start with, is customer only parking, simple. We've discussed that. Sound like that's the most practical first step, if you will. And the combination vehicle, as the mayor mentioned,
You want one sign that has both of that on it, and then one that just has the truck trailer for further down.
One sign that has the customer parking only,
Yes,
between arrows.
with arrows between these signs.
Between these spaces, or whatever,
Yeah.
between these signs, yes. And then one that says no vehicle trailer combination parking beyond this point.
Right, which is separate from the customer parking only sign, because as the mayor had mentioned, one of those no combination vehicle signs probably should be placed out close to 98.
On each end.
Yep, and one over on Avenue C. Okay.
Maybe on Tallahassee Street, I don't know. I'll ask Mr. Bowe, do you think that's needed on Tallahassee Street, a vehicle trailer combination? You don't think it's
I don't
needed?
see that on Tallahassee.
Okay, okay.
We don't have that.
And, yes, Mr. Christopherson?
The beyond this point makes sense from Avenue C north, but if you put it on 98, you're saying beyond this point, does that mean all the way down Marine, you know, I mean?
We're designing a sign, and my thought process there, Greg, is between 98 and Avenue C.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
We're designing a sign.
So we're in the design
Well, I'm just
process
making
now.
a suggestion.
Yeah. Good.
And I would say that the city administrator should consult with the chief, because I just learned this evening that for signage to be enforceable, it needs to be red and white. I didn't know that, thank you. So we're still in discussion. Is there anything else?
And we're talking about the same areas that we originally started off with.
I know this one's green, but you can customize it. You can make it red and white with customer parking, and then we can put your word in here, whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's like $43.95.
I think we're looking for customer parking only. No other wording. Are we looking for any other wording? No wording in here. No your wording in here. Just customer parking.
Between signs?
Between signs.
Well, that,
So that would be your word.
Figure it out
Yeah.
before we, yeah.
Only.
that is the legality part of it, that the chief and the attorney's probably gonna have to say.
Between signs.
I have actually seen a sign like that before.
There's a customer parking only, but.
Most of the, when you're,
Here's one that has an arrow button.
when you're, editing it in the program, it'll have an arrow you can put there, so you can put half of them going one way and half going the other way. And it still could just say customer parking only with just the arrows.
We can customize anything.
So are all the commissioners going to, the commission members, are we gonna all be involved with this, or will we let the city administrator and the chief be involved with it?
Now,
I think
I'll
she
take
can
the chief
handle
and the administrator,
Okay.
us one-on-one, we can't meet.
Yeah.
And before November 3rd, maybe we can come up with something that
Hopefully.
everybody here can agree on.
All right. Okay.
Then if it needs to keep from there, we'll just have to go to the next meeting, or next session.
Hey, come on.
Let's go with that. We all agree what we just said.
Okay.
Yeah.
If y'all are done with me?
No, do you have anything else?
No, I am done. I would
Thank
like
you.
to say thank you,
All
Mayor,
right.
and thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are in discussion. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right, then, there being no more business, do we have a motion
I'll
to
make
adjourn?
that motion to adjourn.
No.
What is it?
Are we done with the parking issues now on Marine Street?
I don't know. We're
This
discussing.
is all I was trying to get done for 5 months
Originally
now.
now, we were discussing all parking issues on Marine Street, and we were talking about even at the pavilion, to try to discontinue the overnight parking at the pavilion. So that was brought up originally
But
when
I
we
thought
started
we
talking
were only
about
gonna
it.
go Tallahassee, 98.
This one was just for downtown
I didn't-
business parking on the agenda.
I suggested we take one item at a time.
Well, as Commissioner Brown says, it says downtown Carrabelle Business Parking.
Okay,
But let's have another,
I'm good with that.
we should, maybe schedule another meeting or workshop or something to or when we discuss this at our November 3rd meeting. And I want y'all to know, we've got a lot of items on there that we have tabled.
Should we?
It's gonna be stacked
wait
up.
until we talk about the parking on, at the water plant and then organize it all then? Because if we need to order new signs, it might be easier to do it all at once. Does that make sense?
Well, I wasn't trying
Okay.
to cluster our meeting and make our meeting longer or more difficult, but that was originally, we started talking about that.
Yeah, I know it, and we do need to address it, and that was good that you, I appreciate you compartmentalizing it, and we need to address this overnight parking issue, especially the folks that go to Dog Island. But I think it's a good suggestion that once we get our parking area, overflow parking, then we can address all of these
All-
parking issues
Because
that
it's
we
all,
have.
that's all boat ramp type stuff. so-
Well, the folks that come and stay for a week, three days a week, that, I don't know how, you know.
Well,
We've got
especially in
to,
this area.
we've got to deal with that somehow.
That's coming next.
Well, anyway, I shared some thoughts with the city administrator already about that Dog Island thing, but we're not gonna get into that, so.
Do we want to get into it?
Not tonight. I think Keith and his dog was working on it.
I know.
And we had to pay this attorney's fee.
Hey, he's
He's all right, I'm sure.
we signed him off clock already.
Yeah.
We could have a workshop where we don't have to pay the attorney, you know, on the overnight parking. With
That's
all
fine
due
with me.
respect.
For another day.
Respected.
Let me see, is it 7 o'clock, so we can go 3 more minutes, you know, to make it even, 7 o'clock. But no, then, so we have a motion by Commissioner Walden to adjourn, do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
And that's second by Commissioner Millender, is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. All right, good night, thank you.
Good night, everyone.